There comes a time in your life when you need to stop confusing kindness with weakness, when you need to stop calling it loyalty when really it's just fear of losing people who don't respect you. Stop being too friendly with people who don't value your time, your presence, or your energy. You were not born to be a doormat. You were not created to be a stepping stone for others to build their lives while you neglect your own. If you're always the one giving, always the one adjusting, always the one compromising, then ask yourself, what are you getting in return? Some of you are stuck in toxic cycles, not because the people around you are powerful, but because you've refused to say no. You're afraid to be disliked. You're afraid to upset the peace. But what about the war inside of you? What about the discomfort you carry, trying to please people who wouldn't lose a second of sleep if they disappointed you? This is your life, and your life is too precious to be lived trying to be everyone's favorite. Choose to be your own protector. Stand in your power and never ever apologize for it. Stop being too friendly. Start being real. Start being strong. Many people believe that kindness is always a virtue, that being friendly and helpful to everyone is the right way to live. But there's a hidden cost to kindness when it's not paired with self-awareness and boundaries. When you're always saying yes, always smiling, always making yourself available. You start sending a message, not just to the world, but to yourself, that your needs come second, that your time and energy are endless resources, that you're okay with being overlooked, undervalued, or even disrespected. And the sad reality is when you allow people to take advantage of you, many will, not because they are inherently evil, but because you've shown them it's okay to do so. People don't always treat you the way you deserve to be treated. They treat you the way you allow them to treat you. When you're too friendly, too accommodating, too eager to please, you stop being seen as a person with value and start being seen as a convenience. You become someone they can turn to whenever they need something, but who they ignore when it's your turn to ask. That's not kindness. That's exploitation wrapped in politeness. Overgiving isn't noble if it leaves you empty. Constantly sacrificing your own well-being just to keep everyone else happy is a silent kind of self-destruction. The truth is, kindness without boundaries doesn't make you a better person. It makes you a better target. You become the go-to person for favors, the emotional dumping ground, the one who always listens, always helps, and never asks for anything in return. But what happens when you need someone? What happens when you're tired, broken, overwhelmed? Are those same people there for you, or do they vanish the moment you stop giving? This is the trap of being too friendly. You teach people that you'll be there no matter how little they give you back. You normalize one-sided relationships. And after a while, you begin to wonder why you feel so drained, so unappreciated, so invisible. You may even start to resent the very people you once tried so hard to please. That resentment doesn't come from them, it comes from you, betraying your own limits. There's a difference between kindness and self-neglect. There's a difference between generosity and losing yourself. When you're too friendly, you often do things out of obligation rather than joy. You say yes when you really mean no. You show up when you'd rather rest. You listen when you need to speak. You give when you need to receive. And all of it eats away at your sense of worth. True kindness must start with yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot keep giving to others at the expense of your peace, your time, your growth. The world will not pause to refill your cup. It will keep asking and taking until you learn to stop it, until you learn that no is a full sentence, until you learn that boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out, but fences meant to protect your inner garden.
Being too friendly teaches people the wrong lesson. It tells them you have no limits, that your kindness is for everyone, at all times, no matter the cost. But what people respect is not unlimited friendliness. They respect strength. They respect clarity. They respect someone who knows their value and doesn't compromise it for approval. The irony is, when you start setting limits, when you stop being overly available, people might push back at first. They might say you've changed. They might get upset. But eventually they'll adjust or they'll leave. And either way, you'll be left with the people who truly value you, not just what you do for them.
You don't have to be rude to stop being too friendly. You just have to be honest with others and with yourself. If something drains you, say no. If someone crosses your line, let them know. If a relationship is one-sided, have the courage to step back. Your kindness is a gift, but not everyone deserves it. Not everyone appreciates it. Not everyone is meant to receive it. and that's okay. Choosing to be kind doesn't mean being a martyr. It means having compassion while also respecting your own needs. It means listening, helping, and loving, but never at the cost of your own soul. You can be warm and assertive. You can be friendly and firm. You can be generous and still say no when you need to. That's real kindness. That's kindness rooted in self-worth. So if you've spent your life being too friendly, constantly putting others ahead of yourself, constantly avoiding conflict, constantly shrinking to keep the peace, it's time to stop, not because you're becoming a worse person, but because you're finally choosing to become an authentic one. One who loves without losing themselves. One who gives without going broke. One who shines without dimming their own light to keep others comfortable. You don't need everyone to like you. You need to like yourself enough to stop betraying who you are. You don't need everyone to approve of you. You need to approve of your decisions, your boundaries, and your life. And that begins the moment you stop being too friendly and start being real. People often misunderstand the concept of respect. They think being agreeable, constantly available, and overly friendly will earn them admiration and love. But the truth is much harsher. The more you overextend yourself to accommodate others, the less value they place on your time, energy, and presence. People don't respect those who always say yes, who always adjust, who never push back. They respect those who have standards, who protect their space, and who know how to say no without guilt or fear. In life, you teach people how to treat you. Every time you let someone interrupt your peace, take advantage of your help, or expect you to always be there without offering anything in return, you're sending them a message: my time doesn't matter. But that's not true. Your time matters, your energy matters, your voice matters, and most importantly, you matter. Think about how people treat those with clear boundaries. There's a quiet confidence about someone who protects their space. They're not rude. They're just firm. They're not selfish. They're just aware of their worth. And because of that, people tread carefully around them, not out of fear, but out of respect. That's the difference between being liked and being respected. Being liked may feel good, but it's often shallow. Being respected, on the other hand, builds something deeper. A sense of value that doesn't disappear when you stop pleasing people. When you constantly adjust for others, you create a dynamic that isn't equal. You give more, bend more, tolerate more, and over time, this imbalance chips away at your confidence. You start to feel like your opinions don't count, that your needs are a burden, and that standing up for yourself will only cause problems. But the real problem is never setting boundaries in the first place. You are not put here to carry other people's expectations while ignoring your own. You are not here to be a cushion for other people's discomfort while drowning in your own. There's a myth that being a good person means being endlessly nice, endlessly forgiving, endlessly giving. But real strength lies in discernment, in knowing when to help and when to hold back, when to listen and when to speak up, when to engage and when to walk away. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to say, I'm not okay with this, even if it makes others uncomfortable. In fact, it's the people with the clearest boundaries who have the healthiest relationships. Why? Because there's clarity. There's mutual respect. There's no guessing, no walking on eggshells, no silent resentment building up in the background. When you let people know how you expect to be treated, you remove the guesswork. You teach them what you will and won't tolerate. And those who care will adapt. Those who don't were never truly invested in you, only in what you gave them. Friendliness is not the problem. The problem is overextending yourself to the point that people start to expect your kindness as a default, not a choice. They begin to assume that your time belongs to them, that your energy is a resource they can tap into whenever they please. And they may never realize the damage they're doing, not because they're cruel, but because you never told them otherwise. It is not the world's job to set your limits. It's yours. No one will wake up one day and say, maybe I'm taking too much from them. No one will suddenly decide to give you more space unless you demand it. Respect is not something handed out freely. It's something earned, and you earn it by standing firm in your boundaries and showing people that you value yourself enough to protect your inner world. The truth is, people notice. They may not always say it, but they notice when you stop replying instantly. They notice when you stop dropping everything for them. They notice when you start saying no without justifying yourself. And that shift, that moment when you start choosing yourself, is when the dynamic changes. Some people will fall away. Let them. That's the cost of self-respect. But the ones who stay, they're the ones who truly value you. not for what you do, but for who you are. You don't have to raise your voice or build walls around your heart. You just need to own your space, to stop apologizing for being unavailable, to stop justifying your needs, to stop diluting your truth, to keep the peace. Because peace without self-respect is just a slow erosion of your identity. The most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to define your boundaries and protect them. Speak up when something feels wrong. Say no when your energy is depleted. Take a step back when someone starts expecting too much. Your time is precious. Your presence is valuable. And your energy is not infinite. You are allowed to reserve it for people who reciprocate, for people who pour back into you. Respect isn't about dominance or control. It's about mutual understanding. And you create that by showing people that you value yourself. You don't have to please everyone to be a good person. You don't have to say yes to everything to be loved. In fact, it's in your no that your strength shines the brightest. In your no is the loudest declaration that your time, your peace, and your worth matter. So don't be afraid to stop being overly friendly. Don't be afraid to demand the respect you deserve. Be kind, but be clear. Be friendly, but be firm. And most of all, be true to yourself. Because when you value yourself, the right people will value you too. Many people don't realize that being overly friendly often comes from a place of fear, not confidence, not generosity, not compassion, but fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being disliked. It's the quiet, subtle fear that says, if I set boundaries, they'll leave. So you smile when you don't want to. You say yes when every part of you wants to say no. You show up even when you're exhausted, emotionally drained, and falling apart inside. You keep giving because you think if you stop, people will stop loving you. But love built on performance isn't love at all. It's dependency wrapped in fear. Too many people tie their worth to how much they can give, how nice they are, how much they can bend without breaking. But constantly living to meet others' expectations doesn't make you admirable, it makes you invisible to yourself. When your kindness is driven by fear, it isn't kindness, it's self-abandonment. It's pretending to be okay with things that hurt you. It's silencing your voice to keep the peace. It's letting others cross your boundaries just to avoid confrontation. You might think you're doing the right thing, but deep down, a war is brewing inside you. A silent battle between who you are and who you've been pretending to be. Fear of rejection is powerful. It convinces you that your needs are too much, that your emotions are a burden, that if you just keep being nice enough, friendly enough, helpful enough, eventually someone will appreciate you. Eventually someone will stay. But the truth is, people don't stay because you sacrifice yourself for them. They stay because there's mutual love, respect, and honesty. And none of those things require you to abandon who you are. When you live your life in fear of being disliked, you hand over control of your happiness to others. Every interaction becomes a performance. You read between the lines, adjust your words, manage their emotions, and do everything in your power to stay likable. But what about your emotions? What about your discomfort? What about the growing feeling that you're constantly giving more than you're getting back? That's the cost of being too friendly out of fear. You lose touch with your own desires, your own boundaries, your own truth. It's okay to want to be liked. That's human. But when your desire to be liked outweighs your commitment to being authentic, you end up living a lie. You attract people who are drawn to a version of you that doesn't really exist, one who is always available, never says no, and never asks for anything in return. And then one day when you're finally tired, when you finally snap, when you finally decide to put yourself first, those same people accuse you of changing, but you're not changing, you're just finally being honest. Brother, there's nothing wrong with being kind, but when kindness comes from fear, it becomes manipulation. You're not just being nice, you're trying to control how people see you. You're trying to prevent abandonment. You're trying to earn love instead of letting it flow naturally. That's a heavy burden to carry. And over time, it will wear you down. True confidence isn't about being liked by everyone. It's about liking yourself enough to let people walk away if they can't handle your boundaries. It's about showing up as your real self, even if that means being misunderstood or even rejected. Because the people who truly care about you won't need you to shrink. They won't need you to overextend. They'll love you in your fullness, your yes and your no, your light and your shadow, your strength and your softness. Breaking free from the fear of being disliked is a process. It starts with noticing when you're doing things out of guilt instead of joy. When you're saying yes just to avoid conflict. when you're pretending to agree just to avoid awkward silence. Then you start practicing honesty, little by little. You say no when something doesn't feel right. You express your feelings even if your voice shakes. You remind yourself that you're allowed to take up space, to have needs, to walk away from relationships that drain you. At first it might feel selfish. You'll second guess yourself. You'll wonder if you're being too harsh, too distant, too cold. But those thoughts aren't truth, they're just echoes of old patterns. Patterns built from years of people-pleasing and approval-seeking. The more you push through, the more you'll realize something powerful. You don't need everyone to like you. You just need to like who you are when you look in the mirror. Being less friendly doesn't mean being mean. It means being real. It means standing up for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. It means trusting that the right people will stick around, not because you bent over backwards for them, but because they genuinely care. You don't have to beg for love. You don't have to earn your worth. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You just have to be true to you. So let go of the fear. Let go of the need to be liked at all costs. Let go of the belief that your value is tied to how much you do for others. Start showing up as your full self. Start honoring your truth. Start protecting your energy, because when you do, you'll stop attracting people who only love your friendliness and start attracting people who truly respect your heart. Saying no is one of the most powerful things you can learn to do, yet so many people struggle with it, not because they don't want to say it, but because they feel guilty, ashamed, or afraid of what others will think. They carry this inner pressure to always be agreeable, to always say yes, to be the one who shows up, steps up, and makes things easier for everyone else. But what about themselves? What about their own well-being? At some point you have to realize that constantly saying yes to others is often a quiet way of saying no to yourself, no to your peace, your priorities, your energy, and sometimes even your dignity. Self-respect begins when you start honoring your own time and emotional space as sacred. It starts when you stop explaining your boundaries and start living by them. The moment you say no to something that drains you, something shifts inside. That's your inner strength rising. That's your self-worth speaking up. That's you finally understanding that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's necessary. When you live without boundaries, you become everything to everyone and nothing to yourself. You become the reliable one, the nice one, the one who never complains, never asks for help, and never declines a request. And at first, people may praise you for it. They may admire how dependable you are. But that admiration fades when you need support in return. Suddenly you're the one left unheard, unsupported, and emotionally bankrupt, and you wonder why it hurts so much. It hurts because you betrayed yourself for the sake of temporary approval. The habit of always saying yes doesn't make you a good person. It makes you a vulnerable one. It tells the world that your time is for sale, your values are flexible, and your self-respect is negotiable. People begin to expect you to say yes. They stop asking and start assuming, and with every yes that should have been a no, you chip away at your own self-esteem. Not only do they stop respecting you, but over time you stop respecting yourself. The ability to say no without guilt is a sign of emotional maturity. It means you've done the inner work. You know what you can handle and what you can't. You know what aligns with your values and what doesn't. You understand that you are not responsible for everyone's comfort, happiness, or expectations. That's their work. Your job is to protect your own energy and stay aligned with what matters to you. People might not like your no. They might get upset, guilt trip you, or accuse you of changing, but that reaction is not your burden to carry. That's just resistance to the fact that you're no longer easy to manipulate. You're no longer someone who can be emotionally cornered into doing what you don't want to do. You're taking back your power, and power always disrupts the dynamic. But anyone who only values you when you're saying yes doesn't value you. They value what you do for them. You have to remember, every time you say yes out of guilt, you dishonor the version of you that wants peace. Every time you say yes out of fear, you feed the part of you that believes you're not allowed to disappoint others. But here's the truth, disappointment is part of life. You're going to disappoint people no matter how hard you try. You might as well do it by honoring your truth rather than abandoning it. And saying no doesn't always mean you're rejecting the person. Sometimes it's about rejecting the timing, the pressure, or the lack of reciprocity. It's about choosing your mental health, your priorities, or simply your need to rest. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to justify it. You're allowed to say no without a reason. That alone is a powerful declaration of self-respect. We've been taught that selflessness is a virtue, and to some degree it is. But when selflessness comes at the expense of your own mental and emotional well-being, it becomes self-destruction. You are not here to be drained, to be stretched thin, or to be a backup plan for people who don't respect your limits. You are allowed to be kind and still protect your peace. You are allowed to help others and still say, I can't do this right now. That doesn't make you cruel, it makes you human. As you start saying no more often, something incredible begins to happen. You start feeling lighter. You stop dreading interactions. You stop overcommitting. You stop burning out. You begin to see who truly respects you and who only stuck around because they could benefit from your constant availability. And while it might be painful to lose some people in the process, what you gain is far more valuable: clarity, confidence, and control over your life. You are not a machine designed to serve everyone's needs. You are a living, breathing person with limits, feelings, and needs of your own. The moment you embrace that truth is the moment everything begins to shift. You stop tolerating mediocrity in relationships. You stop overextending yourself to keep the peace. You stop defining your worth by how useful you are to others. From that place of power, your no becomes a full sentence. Not rude, not cold, just clear. And clarity is a gift, not just to you, but to everyone around you. Because when you honor your boundaries, you give others permission to do the same. You create a world where people are valued for who they are, not just what they give. So give yourself permission to say no. Say no to things that drain you. Say no to people who take you for granted. Say no to expectations that leave no room for your own growth. You don't owe everyone your yes, but you do owe yourself your truth. That's not selfish, that's freedom. That's the beginning of real self-respect. Not everyone deserves your presence. It's a truth that sounds harsh at first, especially for those who are used to giving freely, loving openly, and showing up for everyone regardless of how they're treated in return. But when you really think about it, this truth is one of the most powerful boundaries you can build. Because the reality is, your time, your energy, and your presence are sacred. They're not meant to be handed out like free samples to anyone who shows a little attention or asks nicely. They are meant to be earned, respected, and appreciated. Too often, people confuse availability with loyalty, thinking that just because someone has been in their life for a long time, they deserve continued access. But time doesn't equal value, and consistency doesn't always mean love. Sometimes it just means comfort, familiarity, or a deeply rooted fear of letting go. But there comes a point in life where you must evaluate the relationships around you, not based on history, but based on reality. Are these people nourishing you or draining you? Are they growing with you or holding you back? Are they truly present when you need them or just present when they need something from you? When you give your presence freely, without discernment, you invite people to treat it casually. They begin to expect it, to assume it, to take it for granted. And the painful truth is, people rarely value what is always available. They value what they must earn. They respect what has limits. And they appreciate what is given with intention, not obligation. That's why it's so important to stop showing up for everyone, especially those who wouldn't even notice if you stopped. You are not required to stay connected to people just because you used to be close. You are not obligated to keep feeding relationships that no longer serve you. Friendships, connections, and even family dynamics must be reevaluated as you grow. Because not everyone who started with you is meant to finish with you. And that's not betrayal, that's evolution. Growth will always reveal who is aligned with your future and who is anchored to your past. There is nothing wrong with being a giving person. But there is something deeply wrong with giving to people who only take. If someone repeatedly disrespects your time, dismisses your boundaries, or drains your energy, then it's not your job to fix them or change them. It's your job to walk away, to reclaim your space, to remind yourself that your presence is a gift, and not everyone deserves it. It's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to feel distant from those who once felt like home. It's okay to choose solitude over shallow relationships. In fact, solitude is often where your self-worth begins to rebuild. It's where you begin to remember who you are without the noise of needy people, the guilt of always being there for others, and the pressure of being everything to everyone. Protecting your presence doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about yourself just as much as you care about others. It means you stop pouring into cups that never fill yours back. It means you recognize your value, Not in how much you give to others, but in how much you're willing to give to yourself first. Because when you prioritize your own energy, you become more discerning. You stop chasing validation. You stop seeking permission. And you start moving in alignment with your truth. There's this illusion that cutting people off or stepping back from toxic relationships makes you cold or heartless, but in reality, it makes you conscious. It shows you've reached a level of self-awareness where you refuse to tolerate what you used to excuse, where you choose peace over performance, where you prioritize authenticity over attachment. And that kind of clarity is what truly elevates your life. Think about the emotional weight you've been carrying from people who don't even check in on you. The constant mental gymnastics you do to justify their behavior. The anxiety you feel every time you're around them. That's not love. That's not connection. That's emotional labor. And you are not here to work tirelessly for someone else's comfort while sacrificing your own peace. The moment you realize your presence is powerful, everything changes. You start being intentional with your time. You stop explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop waiting for people to appreciate you, and instead, you choose to show up only where you are seen, valued, and respected. You deserve to be surrounded by people who celebrate you in private, not just in public. People who check on you when you go quiet. People who match your effort. People who don't make you question your worth or beg for their attention. That kind of connection doesn't drain you, it energizes you. It doesn't make you doubt, it reinforces your self-esteem. Your presence is not just your physical availability, it's your energy, your love, your support, your attention, and all of that is priceless. So stop giving it to people who treat it like it's nothing. Stop entertaining half-hearted friendships. Stop wasting your light in places where it's dimmed. Because every moment you spend with the wrong people is a moment stolen from the right ones. It's time to be selective with who gets access to you. Not out of arrogance, but out of respect for yourself, for your growth, for your peace. You are allowed to say, "This no longer serves me." You are allowed to walk away quietly. You are allowed to choose you. Not everyone deserves your presence. And when you finally embrace that truth, you begin to live from a place of power, clarity, and deep inner peace. You no longer move from guilt, you move from purpose, and from that place you no longer attract those who drain you. You attract those who honor you. Protecting your energy is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of self-respect. Too often people think that being kind means saying yes to everything, always being available, and constantly putting others before themselves. But that's not kindness, that's burnout in disguise. The truth is, your energy is one of the most valuable resources you have. It fuels your mind, your emotions, your creativity, your ability to love, and your capacity to grow. And if you keep giving it away to people, situations, and responsibilities that don't align with your purpose, you will eventually find yourself feeling empty, lost, and resentful. In today's world, where everyone wants access to your attention, your time, and your emotional labor, protecting your energy isn't optional, it's survival. Every day, you wake up with a limited amount of focus, patience, and emotional bandwidth, and the way you choose to spend that determines not just your productivity, but your peace. If you give the best of your energy to people who don't appreciate it, if you spend your hours trying to fix problems that aren't yours to solve, or if you engage in conversations that drain your spirit, you'll find yourself depleted long before the day is done. It's important to recognize that not every call needs to be answered. Not every argument needs a response. Not every message needs a reply. And not every person deserves access to your emotional world. You do not have to attend every event, listen to every complaint, or carry every burden. You are allowed to set limits. You are allowed to say, "I can't handle this right now," without guilt, because if you don't protect your energy, no one else will. There are people who will take from you as long as you let them, not because they are evil, but because you've taught them that your boundaries are flexible. You've shown them that you'll always be there, even when you're tired, that you'll always say yes, even when it costs you your peace, that you'll always listen, even when you're breaking inside. And once they become accustomed to that version of you, they stop considering your needs. They stop checking in, they stop giving back, and it's not their fault, it's yours for not protecting what's sacred. Protecting your energy means being mindful of who you surround yourself with. Some people uplift you, they bring clarity, motivation, and calm. Others bring confusion, chaos, and emotional heaviness. You don't owe everyone access to your life. Some people are lessons, not life partners. Some friends are seasonal, not forever. And some connections are meant to be released, not repaired. Every time you engage with someone, ask yourself, do they recharge me or drain me? Do I leave feeling empowered or exhausted? Your body and your spirit already know the answer. You just have to be honest enough to listen. It also means being mindful of how you talk to yourself. Protecting your energy isn't just about setting boundaries with others. It's about setting boundaries within. Are you constantly criticizing yourself? Are you replaying failures in your head? Are you expecting perfection from yourself every day? That kind of mental and emotional pressure is exhausting. Be as kind to yourself as you are to others. Give yourself grace. Speak to yourself with love. Learn to say, I did my best today, even if everything didn't go perfectly. Start guarding your mornings. The first hour of your day sets the tone for the rest of it. Stop waking up and immediately diving into stress, emails, or social media. Start your day with intention, quiet time, deep breaths, gratitude, or reflection. Set a daily boundary that reminds you this time is mine, this energy is mine, this day is mine, because the world will pull you in every direction the moment you let it. And if you don't claim your peace, someone else will disrupt it. Protecting your energy also means walking away from things that no longer serve you. Maybe it's an old friendship that's become one-sided. Maybe it's a job that drains your soul. Maybe it's a habit that no longer aligns with the person you're trying to become. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Not everything or everyone is meant to go with you to the next level of your life. Holding on to dead weight will only slow you down, and you deserve to move freely, lightly, and joyfully. Learn to rest. Not every season is about grinding. Not every moment needs to be filled with activity. Sometimes protecting your energy means slowing down, logging off, and simply breathing. The hustle will always be there. The demands will never stop, but you only have one mind, one body, one spirit. If you burn them out trying to be everything to everyone, what will you have left for yourself? Let go of the need to explain your boundaries. You don't have to justify your need for space. You don't have to over-explain why you're unavailable. You don't need to make people understand why you're choosing peace over pressure. The people who love you will respect your boundaries. The people who don't will only attach to your benefits, not your well-being. The most powerful people in this world are not the ones who say yes to everything. They are the ones who know when to say no. They are the ones who guard their energy like gold. They are the ones who show up when it matters and retreat when they must. That is not weakness. That is mastery. That is balance. That is power. So protect your energy. Protect it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your energy shapes your days. Your days shape your life. And your life is far too precious to be handed over to chaos, distractions, or one-sided relationships. Choose peace. Choose clarity. Choose boundaries. Choose you. Every single time.